This is 3.1 day 2. In 3.1 day 1, we took an equation of a parabola and we graphed it. Now we're going to go the opposite way. We're going to take a graph and find the equation. So the equation that we are going to be working with is called vertex form. So vertex form is y equals a x minus h squared plus k. So anytime you are trying to write an equation of a parabola from a graph, you're going to need to find two things. You're going to need to find the vertex, which we will fill in for the letters h and k, and then you're going to need to find another point somewhere on the line that we will fill in for the variables x and y. So your goal is to find those 2 points and then we substitute in, and after we do that we will then solve for a. Alright, so let's start by finding the vertex. Here's our vertex here. It has coordinates. Be careful how these are being counted. Each block is a half, so even though this is 2 lines over, that's really only 1, and then it goes all the way down to -4. Since that's the vertex, that's the HK, and I would always label it H and K so that you don't get it confused with the X and Y. Then we need another point anywhere on the graph. So it could be this point right here, it could be this point right here. Anywhere that the graph crosses through a corner, it could be that point right there. Doesn't matter which one you choose. If we choose this one right here, we know that those coordinates are 3, 0. That's going to be your X and your Y. So you're going to take those and substitute them in that vertex form. Alright, so we're going to substitute in for y the 0. We don't know what a is, that's what we're solving for. X is 3 minus 1 for h squared plus -4, or you could say -4. Now, please, 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 when you're solving for a, always start by adding the k value over first. Okay, or subtracting if it's positive. But in this case, we're going to add this over here first. That will help you not make some silly arithmetic errors later. So we have 4 equals, and we can simplify this when we're rewriting it. 3 minus 1 is 2. So we have a times 2 squared. Then we have 2 squared is, of course, 4. You can write it as A4, or most people are more familiar with the number being in front, so you can write it as 4A. And then we divide by 4, so A equals 1. Now that's not your final answer. Your final answer, you have to put it all back together. So we would say y equals 1 x minus 1 squared minus 4. Now notice in the final answer, I did not put in any numbers for x or y. The only numbers I substituted into this equation were a, h, and k. So x and y will always be x and y in the final answer. A, h, and k are the only ones that we substitute numbers in for. All right, number 5 is our last example. So please try to go through that process yourself. Find the vertex, find the point, substitute them all in and solve for a. Don't forget to add that k value over first, and then put it all back in for an equation. So hit pause, give that a try, and then come back and check. All right, so our vertex here is going to be -2, 5, and I'm going to label that HK. And then a point, we can pick any point as long as it crosses through a line. How about this one? That's -1, 3. You might have used a different point for yours. That's okay. We should get the same answer in the end no matter what point you use, but you do have to use the vertex. All right, so now we're going to substitute that into the equation. 3 equals a times -1 plus 2 squared plus 5. Solve by moving the k first. So I'm going to subtract my 5 before I do anything else. And then I can simplify inside of there. -1 plus 2 is 1 squared. 1 squared is just 1, so it looks like A is just going to be negative 2. But don't stop there. That is not your answer. Your final answer has to be an equation that has the A value, the H value, and the K value all substituted in. But don't put in the X or the Y. So your final answer, Y equals negative 2, X plus 2 squared plus 5.